The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. It hung above New York City like a metal cloud, silent and still. People stopped in the streets to stare up at it. Some ran. Some took pictures. Some just stood frozen in fear. Captain John Miller of the Earth Defense Force was eating breakfast when he got the call. He dropped his fork and rushed to headquarters. By the time he arrived, 5 more ships had appeared over other major cities. "We need someone to talk to them," General Lewis said, looking directly at Miller. "Someone who won't start a war." Miller frowned. "Why me, sir?" "Because you're the best diplomat we have who's also a soldier. If this goes bad, I need someone who can think on their feet." 6 hours later, Miller stood on the roof of the United Nations building with a small team. Lieutenant Lisa Garcia stood beside him, checking the communication device they had set up. "Ready, sir," she said. Miller nodded and took a deep breath. "This is Captain John Miller of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact." The air shimmered, and suddenly 3 aliens stood before them. They were tall and thin with blue-gray skin that seemed to reflect light. Their eyes were large and completely black. "We are the Galactic Concordat," the tallest alien said in perfect English. "I am High Commander Zex Tour. We have been watching your planet for some time." Miller stepped forward. "We are honored to make your acquaintance. We have many questions." Zex Tour made a sound like laughter. "I'm sure you do, human. Your species is very young, very primitive." Garcia frowned but stayed silent as Zex Tour continued. "We have visited thousands of worlds. Your technology is amusing. You've barely left your own planet." Miller kept his face neutral. "We're still developing, but we learn quickly." "Yes, yes," Zex Tour waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. "All species say that. But look at you. So fragile, so inefficient. Your bodies waste energy, your brains process slowly, your lifespans are short." The alien turned to look at the city below. "But your planet has resources we find interesting. Your oceans contain elements rare in the galaxy, and your magnetic field is unusual." Garcia glanced at Miller. She had noticed how the aliens kept looking at the water visible in the distance. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander?" Miller asked carefully. "A simple arrangement. We will provide protection for your world. In exchange, we require access to certain areas and resources. Nothing you'll miss, I assure you." "Protection from what?" Garcia asked suddenly. Zex Tour's black eyes turned to her. "The galaxy is dangerous, little human. Many species would simply take what they want from a world like yours. We are being generous." Over the next few days, the aliens met with world leaders. They showed off technology that seemed like magic, curing diseases, cleaning pollution, producing energy without fuel. But they refused to share how any of it worked. "You wouldn't understand," they told the human scientists who asked questions. Nations argued about the Concordat's offer. Some wanted to accept immediately, excited by the advanced technology. Others were suspicious of the aliens' intentions. Miller and Garcia were assigned to continue working with the Concordat representatives. During one meeting, Garcia noticed an alien flinch when a high-pitched sound came from nearby construction. "Did you see that?" she whispered to Miller. He nodded slightly. "Keep watching. Record everything." As they left the meeting, Miller said quietly, "They'd want something, and they're not being honest about what it is." Garcia looked up at the alien ship hovering in the sky. "They think we're stupid, sir. That might be our only advantage right now." Miller nodded. "Then let's not correct that impression just yet." Neither of them knew that Earth had just 6 months of peace left before everything would change. 6 months after the aliens arrived, Earth had changed. Concordat outposts now stood in every major city. Tall, gleaming buildings that humans were not allowed to enter without permission. The aliens said they were here to help, but their help came with many rules. Alan Brooks wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the alien device in front of him. The lad was hot because the aliens liked warm temperatures. Next to him, Michelle Patel carefully took notes. Try turning it clockwise, she suggested. Brooks did, and the device lit up with a soft blue glow. A Concordat supervisor named Krell watched from across the room, his black eyes blinking slowly. Interesting that you figured that out, Krell said. Perhaps you aren't as slow as most of your kind. Brooks forced a smile. This was how the aliens always talked to them, like they were clever pets who had learned a new trick. Thank you for the opportunity to learn, Brooks said, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. Later, when Krell had left, Paddle leaned close to Brooks. I found something strange in the data they gave us. The aliens avoid certain sound frequencies. They seem to cause them pain. Brooks nodded. Keep that information quiet for now. I'll tell Captain Miller. Across the city, Miller and Garcia watched as alien ships hovered over the ocean. The Concordat had started taking water samples 2 weeks ago. Now they were removing larger amounts. They said they were just studying our oceans, Garcia said. That looks more like mining to me. Miller pulled out his phone and took pictures. Earth's leaders gave them permission to take samples, not drain the ocean. When Miller brought his concerns to the Concordat liaison office, a tall alien named Vex laughed at him. You don't understand the agreement your leaders signed, Vex said. We have rights to any resources we deem necessary for our research. That's not how we understood the agreement, Miller argued. Vex made a dismissive gesture. This is why primitive creatures shouldn't try to understand galactic law. It's beyond your comprehension. That evening, Miller met with Garcia, Brooks, and Paddle in a small apartment. They had swept it for listening devices 3 times. They think we're stupid, Miller said. Let's use that against them. Brooks shared what they had learned about the sound frequencies. Garcia talked about the ocean mining. Patel showed them data she had secretly collected. The aliens never demonstrate physical exertion in front of us, she said. I think they tire easily. And have you noticed they always wear those suits? I think they might be vulnerable to something in our environment. Keep observing, Miller told them. Document everything. 2 days later, Earth's leaders called an emergency meeting. The Concordat had started taking minerals from the ocean floor without asking permission. When questioned, they simply said it was covered in the agreement. We need to stand up to them, one leader said. With what? Another argued. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. While the leaders argued, Miller's team continued their work. Garcia focused on the aliens' physical limitations. Brooks studied their reaction to sounds. Patil analyzed their technology for weaknesses. One night, Brooks succeeded in building a device that could pick up Concordat communications. The team gathered around as alien voices filled the room. Earth's core contains more of the element than we expected, a voice said. Excellent. Once we extract it, we can proceed with relocation of the humans. Where will they be sent? The mining colonies need workers. Humans have good endurance for labor, if nothing else. Miller shut off the device. Her room was silent as they looked at each other. They're planning to take something from inside the Earth, Garcia finally said. And then get rid of us, Patil added. Brooks looked at the device he had built. They'd been lying all along. Miller stood up. We need to warn everyone. But we also need proof. No one will believe us without it. They laugh at us now, Garcia said, her voice hard. Let's see if they're still laughing when we fight back. None of them knew exactly how to fight an advanced alien race, but they all knew they had to try. Miller gathered his team in an old bunker 20 feet underground. The government had built it during the Cold War. Now it served as their secret base. The thick concrete walls blocked alien scanning technology. We need to know more about what they're planning, Miller said to the group, and we need to understand our own strengths. Garcia nodded. I've been watching them. The aliens take rest periods every 4 hours. They can't go without them. Humans can stay awake for days if needed, Brooks added. They don't seem to understand that. Patil spread out some papers on the table. I've been testing our blood samples against their air filters. Our bodies can handle much more radiation than theirs. Miller looked at the information with interest. So we have endurance they lack. What else? Their bodies don't adapt quickly, Garcia said. Remember when it snowed last week? They all stayed inside. The cold hurts them. Humans can live in almost any environment on Earth, Brooks said. Desert, Arctic, mountains, jungles. We adapt. They spent the next week gathering more information. Brooks improved his communication device. Now they could listen to more Concordat conversations. They learned that Earth's water contained trace elements not found anywhere else in the galaxy. The aliens call it Compound X, Paddle explained. It's in our oceans, in our blood, even in our plants. What does it do? Miller asked. It helps things change and adapt, she said. That's why Earth has so many different life forms. That's why humans can survive in so many conditions. One night, Brooks was working late when he noticed something strange. He hurried to call the others. I was testing radiation levels, he explained when they arrived. Humans can withstand levels that would kill the aliens instantly. How is that possible? Garcia asked. Compound X again, Paddle said after looking at the data. It helps our cells repair damage. Miller thought about this new information. So the aliens want Compound X because they can't adapt like we can. There's more, Brooks said. I intercepted a new transmission. They're not just planning to take the compound. They want to move Earth's entire population to labor colonies. He played the recording. The alien voices were clear. Humans are strong workers, one voice said. They recover quickly from injury. They can work longer shifts than other species. Their adaptability will be useful in the mineral mines, another replied. Many other species die too quickly there. When do we begin the relocation? A third voice asked. As soon as we finish extracting the core samples, 2 more Earth months. Miller turned off the recording. The room was quiet. They see us as nothing but strong backs, Garcia said, her voice angry. Tools to be used. We need to warn Earth's leaders, Paddle said. Miller nodded. But we need proof they'll believe, and we need a plan to fight back. The next day, they met with General Lewis in a secure room. Miller explained what they had discovered. The general looked skeptical until Brooks played the recordings. Even if this is true, Lewis said, what can we do? Their weapons are far beyond ours. But we have strengths they don't know about, Miller replied. We need to use what makes us human against them. Like what? Lewis asked. Our endurance, Garcia said. Our ability to adapt quickly. Our resistance to radiation. And this, Paddle added, placing a small device on the table. I've been studying their technology. They're vulnerable to certain sound frequencies. This device produces those sounds. Lewis picked up the device. This could be a weapon. A start, Miller said. We need more. And we need to prepare without them knowing. I'll take this to the president, Lewis promised. But be careful. If the aliens realize what you know. Miller nodded. We'll be careful, but we don't have much time. As they left the meeting, Garcia looked up at the alien ships hovering in the sky. They think we're just primitive animals, she said. They have no idea what humans can do when we need to survive. 3 days after meeting with General Lewis, Miller and his team were called to the United Earth Council. This group had been formed after the aliens arrived. Leaders from every country worked together to deal with the Concordat. Miller stood before them and explained what his team had discovered. The room was silent as Brooks played the recordings of alien conversations. This is concerning, said the council president. But how do we know these recordings are real? Colonel Henry Scott stood up. He was tall with gray hair and sharp eyes. At first, he had been friendly with the aliens. I didn't believe it either, Scott said. But I've seen the evidence myself. The Concordat is not here to help us. One by one, the council members asked questions. Miller, Garcia, Brooks, and Paddle answered them all. They showed the data they had collected and explained what they had learned about human strengths compared to alien weaknesses. Even if all this is true, a council member asked, "What can we do?" "Their ships are too powerful." Scott stepped forward again. "That's why I asked to speak today. There's something you should know." He pressed a button on a small device. A hologram appeared in the middle of the room, showing a computer system. "This is Dardoyan," Scott explained. "A military AI we developed before the aliens arrived. We kept it secret, even from the Concordat." "What can it do?" Miller asked. "It learns and adapts faster than any computer ever built," Scott said. "We think it might be able to interface with alien technology." The council talked for hours. Some wanted to confront the aliens immediately. Others thought they should wait and gather more information. In the end, they agreed to prepare secretly while pretending to cooperate with the Concordat. The next day, Zextur announced new alien bases would be built on Earth. Humans would need special permits to travel between cities. The Concordat called these security measures. Miller's team knew the truth. The aliens were tightening their control before moving humans to labor colonies. Garcia worked with Paddle to improve their sound weapon. They built a small device that could fit in a pocket. "It won't kill them," Garcia explained to Miller, "but it will cause them pain and confusion." "Good work," Miller said. "How many can you make?" "With the right materials, hundreds," Paddle replied. "Maybe thousands." Scott gave them access to a secret military facility. There, they connected Dardoyan to the alien communication device Brooks had built. The AI began learning the Concordat's language and technology. "It's working faster than we expected," Brooks said as they watched. "Dardoyan is already breaking through their security systems." Meanwhile, the aliens continued their work. They drilled deep into the ocean floor and set up new equipment around the world. They seemed focused on Earth's magnetic field. Miller reported all this to the council. They began making plans. Weapons were moved to secret locations. Soldiers trained in private. Food and supplies were stored underground. Through it all, the Concordat noticed nothing unusual. When they saw humans meeting, they assumed it was normal government business. When they saw unusual movement of trucks and supplies, they believed the explanations about infrastructure projects. "They think we're too primitive to deceive them," Garcia said during a planning meeting. "Their arrogance blinds them." 1 month later, Miller stood with Scott in the Dardoyan facility. "We're almost ready," Scott said. "Dardoyan has mapped their entire communication network. We know where their bases are. We know their schedules and their weaknesses." "What about their ships?" Miller asked. "We still can't match their firepower." Scott smiled slightly. "We don't need to match it. We just need to survive it long enough to use their weaknesses against them." Miller nodded. "How much longer do we have?" "According to our information, they plan to begin moving humans in 2 weeks," Scott replied. "We need to be ready before then." "We will be," Miller promised. He looked at the map showing Concordat positions around the world. "They came here thinking we were weak. It's time to show them what humans can really do." The attack came without warning. Concordat ships appeared over Norway on a cold morning. They fired energy beams at a research facility studying Earth's magnetic field. The building exploded in flames. Dr. Laura Wilson was the only survivor. She had been in an underground lab when the attack happened. She grabbed her research data and ran through emergency tunnels as the facility burned above her. Wilson reached a small town and called for help. Miller and his team were sent to get her. "The aliens know we're studying them," Garcia said as their helicopter flew toward Norway. "That's why they attacked." Miller nodded. "What was Dr. Wilson working on?" "Earth's magnetic field," Brooks answered. "The Concordat has been very interested in it." They landed near the town and found Wilson hiding in a small house. Her face was dirty, and she looked scared. "They came without warning," she told them. "Everyone is dead." "We need to move," Miller said. "They'll be looking for survivors." They were heading to the helicopter when alien ships appeared in the sky. The team ran for cover in the forest. "They're tracking us somehow," Paddle said, checking her equipment. Wilson pulled out a small device from her pocket. "It's this. My research scanner. It has a signal they can follow." Miller took the device. "What's so important about your research?" "I discovered why they want our magnetic field," Wilson explained, her voice shaking. "They're planning to use it to extract something from Earth's core, but the process will destabilize the entire planet." Brooks looked alarmed. "They'll destroy Earth." "Not intentionally," Wilson said, "but they don't care about the damage. Once they get what they want, they'll leave before the worst effects happen." A sound made them all duck. An alien patrol ship flew overhead, searching the forest with scanning beams. "We need a distraction," Miller said. He looked at Garcia. "Is your sound weapon ready?" Garcia nodded and pulled out a small device. "It has limited range, but it should work." The patrol ship came around for another pass. Garcia activated her device. It made no sound that humans could hear, but the effect on the alien ship was immediate. It jerked sideways, then plunged into the forest. The crash shook the ground. "It worked," Patel said in surprise. "Let's move," Miller ordered. "More will come." They reached the helicopter and took off just as more alien ships appeared. Garcia used her device again, confusing the aliens long enough for them to escape. Back at their base, Wilson showed them her research data. The Concordat planned to use Earth's magnetic field to help extract an element from the planet's core. "The process will cause massive earthquakes," she explained. "Volcanic eruptions. Eventually, the planet will become uninhabitable." "And they know this?" Scott asked, his face grim. Wilson nodded. "They don't care. They'll be gone before the worst happens." That same day, the Concordat made an announcement to all of Earth. They declared humans dangerous primitives who had attacked Concordat forces. They imposed martial law across the planet. "No human shall travel without permission," Zextor's voice declared over all communication channels. "All humans must register with Concordat authorities. Resistance will not be tolerated." Miller's team watched the announcement from their underground base. "They're moving faster than we expected," Garcia said. Scott nodded. "Then so must we." He turned to a computer terminal. "Darwin, initiate Global Resistance Protocol." The AI's voice responded, calm and clear. "Protocol initiated. Contacting all resistance cells worldwide." Miller looked at his team. "The Concordat thinks they're dealing with scared primitives who will surrender. Time to show them what humans do when backed into a corner." Around the world, hidden resistance groups received their orders. The fight for Earth had begun. 3 months after the Concordat declared martial law, the world had changed. Alien patrols moved through cities. Humans needed special permits to travel. Many people disappeared, taken to alien ships for questioning. But the aliens were facing something they hadn't expected. Humans fought back everywhere. In New York, people sabotaged alien equipment. In Beijing, resistance fighters destroyed a Concordat supply depot. In Rio de Janeiro, hackers disrupted alien communications. Small actions happened daily around the world. Miller stood in an abandoned subway tunnel that now served as a resistance base. Maps covered the walls showing Concordat bases and patrol routes. "Today's the day," he told his team. "We're going to capture their communication hub." The plan was dangerous. The hub was inside a heavily guarded Concordat base, but Darwin had identified it as the key to the aliens' Earth network. "Once we control the hub," Miller explained, "Darwin can access all their systems." Garcia checked her sound weapon, now improved to have greater range. "The guards change in 2 hours. That's our window." Brooks and Patel had spent months studying captured alien technology. They had created new weapons by combining human innovation with alien tech. "The shields on their buildings work like their ship shields," Brooks explained. "They block energy weapons and explosives, but not sound," Patel added. and not us walking through once they're down. The team moved through underground tunnels until they reached a position near the alien base. Above them, Concordat guards patrolled with energy weapons. They looked bored. After months of occupation, they expected little resistance. Garcia activated her sound device. The aliens couldn't hear it, but they felt the effects. They grabbed their heads in pain. Some fell to their knees. "Now," Miller ordered. The team rushed forward. They wore special suits Patel had designed to block alien scanners. The guards didn't see them coming until it was too late. Inside the base, they moved quickly. Darwin had mapped the building layout. Miller led them to the communication hub, a room filled with alien technology. Brooks went to work connecting a human device to the alien system. "This will give Darwin access," he explained as he worked. Alarms suddenly blared through the building. "We've been detected," Garcia warned. "Keep working," Miller ordered Brooks. "We'll hold them off." Alien guards rushed toward the hub. Garcia used her sound weapon, dropping the first wave. Paddle deployed small robots she had built using alien parts. The robots crawled up walls and disabled security systems. Brooks finished his work just as more guards arrived. "It's done," he shouted. "Darwin is in their system." "Let's go," Miller ordered. They fought their way out of the building and back to the tunnels. Behind them, the alien communication hub continued working, but now Darwin controlled it. Back at the resistance base, Scott was waiting with Wilson and other leaders. "Darwin has access," Scott announced. "We can see everything. Their battle plans, their ship movements, everything." Wilson pointed to a map showing alien activity around Earth's magnetic poles. "They're moving equipment into position. They'll start drilling to the core in 3 days." Miller looked at the reports coming in from resistance groups worldwide. Humans were fighting back hard now. The aliens were struggling to maintain control. "The Concordat is calling for reinforcements," Brooks said, monitoring alien communications. "A fleet is on the way." "How long until they arrive?" Scott asked. 2 weeks, Brooks answered. "That gives us time," Miller said. "We need to hit them before their reinforcements arrive." Patel and Garcia had been working on a new weapon that used Earth's magnetic field against the aliens. Wilson's research had helped them understand how. "It's almost ready," Patel said. "We need to test it first." "Do it," Scott ordered, "and prepare all resistance cells for a coordinated attack." Miller looked at the team that had started this fight. Brooks with his communication skills, Patel with her technical genius, Garcia with her weapons, Wilson with her crucial research. "The Concordat thought we would surrender," he said. "They thought humans were weak and primitive. They're about to learn how wrong they were." Around the world, humans prepared for the biggest battle in Earth's history. The aliens had the technology, but humans had something more valuable: the will to survive, no matter the odds. Scott stood before screens showing resistance leaders from around the world. The attack would begin in 6 hours. Every major Concordat base would be hit at the same time. "This is our one chance," Scott told them. "The aliens are vulnerable now. Darwin has disrupted their communications. They can't coordinate their defenses." Miller studied the map of their target, the main Concordat base in the Himalayas. This was where the aliens controlled their Earth operations. "My team will lead the attack on the primary base," Miller said. "Once we control it, we can disable all their systems." Around the world, resistance fighters prepared. Some had sound weapons. Others had devices Patel and Brooks had designed. All had courage. In the lab, Patel made final adjustments to their new weapon. It looked simple, just a small box with a few buttons. "Will it work?" Garcia asked. "In theory," Patel replied. "It uses Earth's magnetic field to create a pulse that disrupts their technology. But we've never tested it at full power." "Today it gets tested," Miller said, loaded on the transport. They moved through tunnels to a hidden airfield. 3 old military planes waited there, painted black for night flying. The team boarded the lead plane. Alien patrols, Miller asked the pilot. Darwin has them chasing false signals, the pilot replied. Our path should be clear. The planes took off, flying low to avoid detection. Similar scenes played out across the world as resistance forces moved toward Concordat bases. In the Himalayan base, High Commander Zex Tour was angry. Communications had been failing for days. Reports came in of human attacks increasing. They are just primitives, he told his officers. How are they causing so much trouble? They adapt quickly, an officer replied. And they never stop fighting. It doesn't matter, Zex Tour said. Our reinforcements will arrive soon. Then we'll finish the extraction and leave this miserable planet. An alarm suddenly blared. Human aircraft approaching, an officer shouted. Zex Tour looked surprised. Impossible. How did they get past our sensors? Miller's team parachuted onto the mountain near the base. The cold air bit at their faces, but they moved quickly. Garcia led the way, her sound weapon clearing alien guards without alerting others. Inside their command center, Scott coordinated the worldwide attack. On his screens, he watched as humans struck Concordat bases on every continent. Group 7 has taken the Paris base, an officer reported. Group 3 has control in Sydney. What about Miller's team? Scott asked. They're inside the main base perimeter, the officer replied. Darwin is helping them bypass security. Inside the Himalayan base, Miller and his team fought their way toward the central control room. Alien guards fell before Garcia's sound weapon. Brooks used a device to unlock secure doors. Patel kept their equipment working despite alien countermeasures. We're approaching the main control center, Miller reported through his radio. Hurry, Scott's voice replied. Our satellite shows they've started the drilling operation. They're trying to reach the core early. Miller and his team fought harder, pushing through alien defenses. They'd reached a massive door blocking access to the control center. This will take time to open, Brooks said, examining the lock. We don't have time, Miller replied. He turned to Patel. Is your weapon ready? Patel nodded and handed him the small box, pointed at the door and pressed the button. But I don't know what will happen. Miller aimed the device and activated it. The box hummed and then released a pulse that wasn't visible but felt like a wave passing through everything. The massive door shuddered and went dark. Its locking mechanism failed. It works, Garcia said, pushing the door open. Inside, they found Zex Tour and his command staff. The aliens looked shocked to see humans in their control center. This is impossible, Zex Tour said. You are primitives. How did you defeat our technology? Miller smiled grimly. Maybe you should have studied us more carefully before you decided we were weak. Around the world, humans were taking control of alien bases. The Concordat forces were falling back, confused and disorganized without their communication network. For the first time since they arrived, the aliens were afraid of humans. The Concordat reinforcement fleet arrived in Earth's orbit 2 weeks after humans took control of the alien bases. 50 ships, much larger than the first ones that had come to Earth. They expected to find a planet ready for final resource extraction. Instead, they found their forces defeated. Miller stood in the United Earth Council chamber. The room was packed with leaders from every nation. On a large screen, they watched the alien fleet. They're trying to contact their ground forces, Brooks reported, monitoring communications. Darwin is blocking their signals. What are our options? The council president asked. Scott stepped forward. We've secured their bases and technology. We've stopped the drilling operations, but we can't fight that fleet in space. Maybe we don't have to fight them, Miller suggested. He turned to Wilson. Your research showed what they plan to do to Earth. Do you have proof? Wilson nodded. Complete records. They knew the extraction would destroy our planet. Send it to every ship in their fleet, Miller ordered. Let them see what their leaders were planning. Brooks worked with Darwin to broadcast the evidence to the alien fleet. Video recordings of Concordat leaders discussing how Earth would become uninhabitable. Documents showing they planned to relocate humans to labor colonies. On the main screen, they watched as the alien fleet stopped advancing. "They're talking among themselves," Brooks reported. "Some ships are separating from the main group." Garcia looked concerned. They could be preparing to attack. Miller shook his head. "I don't think so." "Darwin, can you translate their communications?" The AI's voice came through speakers. "Many ships are questioning the Concordat leadership. Some are from species that were conquered by the Concordat themselves. They did not know the full plan for Earth." A new signal came through. A different alien face appeared on the screen. This one had green skin and 4 eyes. "People of Earth," the alien said. "I am Captain Vrex of the Galactic Alliance. Many of us in this fleet serve the Concordat because our worlds were conquered. We did not know they planned to destroy your planet." "What do you want?" the Council President asked. "To talk," Vrex replied. "Your resistance has shown us that the Concordat is not as powerful as they claimed. Many ships are now siding with us against them." Over the next few days, representatives from the rebel alien ships came to Earth. They met with human leaders. They were surprised by what they found. "Your technology is less advanced than ours," Vrex told Miller during a meeting. "But your adaptability is remarkable. No other species could have defeated the Concordat forces so quickly." "We protect what's ours," Miller replied simply. The Concordat loyalist ships eventually retreated. They knew they couldn't win against both humans and the rebel aliens working together. 1 month later, Earth signed its first true alliance agreement with other worlds. Not as a protected planet, but as an equal partner. The document was signed in the same United Nations building where humans had first met the Concordat. "Humans will join the Galactic Council," Vrex announced. "Your unique abilities will be respected, not exploited." After the ceremony, Miller's team gathered on the roof of the building. They looked up at the stars, now knowing what was out there. "They came here thinking we were weak," Garcia said. "They never bothered to really understand us." "Human history is full of stories like this," Brooks added. "Someone stronger underestimates someone they think is weaker." Patil smiled. "And now the galaxy knows not to underestimate Earth." Scott joined them with news. "The Council wants to send representatives to other worlds. They're asking for recommendations." Miller looked at Garcia. "You should go. You understand both our strengths and their technology." Garcia looked surprised. "Me? An ambassador? Who better?" Miller said. "You helped show them Earth's true power." As they looked at the night sky, none of them could imagine all the adventures that awaited humanity among the stars. But they knew one thing for certain: no one in the galaxy would ever laugh at humans again.